Hello, 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 everybody. How are we doing today? Oh, come on. I want some more energy. There's all of you in this room. How are we doing today? That is great to hear. Welcome to UT Austin. Welcome to Moving In, and welcome to the Leadership City Limits 2022. We are so excited that you're here today. We're going to do a few introductions, give you a few announcements, and then get things kicked off with our amazing keynote speaker. So first of all, my name is Scott Cook. I work here in Housing and Dining, and I've probably been emailing a whole lot of you this past summer about this event.
All right, good morning, everybody. Let's do a quick hook 'em. Okay, there we go, more energy. So my name is Amber Stoltz. You have seen me around giving you different instructions. I serve as the manager for student leadership and advising. She, her, hers pronouns. Then I'm gonna have my grad Shannon raise her hand. Shannon is the Residence Hall programming team grad. We are hiring for 10 positions. You'll learn about those throughout the conference. Then Evan, I'm gonna have him raise his hand. Evan is my University and Residence Hall Association grad, URHA. We are doing recruitment for Residence Hall councils and things. You'll learn about that also at the conference. I'm gonna have Elizabeth raise her hand. Elizabeth is one of our programming specialists and a big assistant in the background for the conference. Then we have Billy. I'm gonna have him, they raise their hand. Billy is also a programming specialist. And we are excited to have you all here and have a great itinerary plan for the next few days with us. I'm gonna hand it back over to Scott to introduce our speaker.
Thank you. So over the course of the next few days, if you have any questions, you can find the 6 of us and we will get you your answer. We're very excited. And a few housekeeping things. We're using Canvas a whole lot today, so you should be able to see all the sessions on there. You'll see a lot of the presenters. As the day goes on, we'll keep adding to it. So with the presentations that we can, we'll put those on Canvas. We'll put videos on Canvas as well. We also have assessments on Canvas, so please take that after every session. Also, just while we're in this space, so you all know, the restrooms are down that hallway past the elevators. If you want a single-use restroom, then you can head up the stairs, and they are, again, down that hallway before you get to the double doors that lead into the residence section of the building. But if you need that, they're down that way, and water fountains are also down that way. So if at any point you need to get up and move around or use the restroom, feel free to do that. None of the presenters will be upset if you just get up. But we are very excited. With that being said, I am very excited to announce our first keynote speaker for this event. This keynote speaker works here at University Housing and Dining and is the Director of Student Learning Development and Engagement. They have been here for nearly 5 years now, and they are a well-known keynote speaker in the UT system. So please give it up for Dr. Brandon Jones.
Is this the mic y'all want me to use? This the one? Okay, perfect. All right, good morning, everybody. Okay, I was like, we're gonna do this one more time. Good morning, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you all this morning. As Scott said, my name is Brandon Jones. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I serve as the Director for Student Learning, Development, and Engagement here in Housing and Dining at the University of Texas at Austin. But I'm excited because you all are here, so give it up for yourselves first and foremost. Give it up, give it up, give it up. Before I dive into the contents of our conversation, because it is a conversation that we're going to have with each other today, I want to take a moment to introduce 2 very special people. First and foremost, I got to introduce you all to my supervisor, our Senior Director for Residence Life, Dr. Mylan Kirksey. Dr. Kirksey, can you wave your hand for us? Y'all give it up for Dr. Kirksey. And then his boss. So it's my boss's boss, our Associate Vice President for University Housing and Dining, Dr. Marilyn Tyus. Dr. T, can you wave your hand for everybody? If for any reason you all have questions, or if you're walking across campus throughout the year and you see any of us, but especially them, please make sure that you speak. Please say hello and remind them that you saw them here, because it's a lot of you. In fact, this is the most we've ever had attend this leadership conference. And so I'm super excited because that means we can't do this in this room anymore after this year. So you all helped break the record. So thank you all so much. Give it up for yourselves one more time. So I'm not gonna call it a housekeeping rule, but it is a rule, and it's only one rule. My one rule during this presentation is that you engage, you have fun, you laugh when the jokes are said, okay? There we go, good, off to a good start already. Then the other rule is make sure that you're having fun. Make sure that you're taking notes. Make sure that you're texting your friends. I put my social media handle there, DRJONZ84. That is Instagram and Twitter, not on TikTok until marketing put me on there yesterday for a video that I did. It was pretty cool. We almost went viral yesterday, by the way. So if you saw our housing and dining reel on Instagram where my colleague Jasco and I were impersonating some of your parents, then yeah, that was me. I was that guy. I dressed like a normal person during the week, but for that skit, I dressed differently. But have fun. Post on social media, tweet, put quotes up that stand out, write things down. Make the most of this time because that's what this presentation is really going to be about. So y'all ready to roll with me? Y'all ready to roll? Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I will take that. There we go. Let's do it. So just a couple of quick things about me. First and foremost, I'm a native East Texan. Any East Texans in the house? Where y'all from? Where you from? Ooh. You a Panther? No. Good. Okay, you're good. You're fine. All right, you didn't go to Lufkin High. All right, good deal. Lufkin, welcome, East Texas. Where else? Where else? What other East Texans we got? Where you at? You a Panther too? We can talk. We cool. We'll be cool. We'll be cool. Anybody else? We got Lufkin. We got Tyler. Any other East Texan? Buffalo, got you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. A little Southeast Texas, got you, got you. Listen, super excited, born and raised in Tyler, Texas, attended Abilene Christian University for both my bachelor's and my master's degree. Got my PhD at UT Arlington. That's also where I met my wife. This year we've been married 11 years. We have 2 kids. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Thank you for applauding. Thank you for applauding, because it's hard, all right? Got 2 lovely kids. My daughter Alyssa is 9, starts the 4th grade tomorrow morning around this time. And then my son, little Brandon, he's 6. He'll be going to 1st grade tomorrow. So we're excited about that. Work here in housing and dining. Been here on September 5th. I will have been here 5 years, which means that this particular conference is actually my 5th time presenting during this conference. The first time I did it, it was by accident because we had a speaker that couldn't make it at the last second. And so y'all liked it so much, they kept inviting me back. And so, I mean, you know, I kind of signed the check for it, but I'm really excited that I get to keep coming back. So I really do appreciate it. And I also teach over in the College of Liberal Arts. Any liberal arts majors in the room? What's up, what's up, what's up? Okay, okay. Any of y'all taking Foundations of Intercultural Competency? If not, Dr. Kirksey and I teach that class, all right? So I was just checking to see if we had any of our students in the room. And then, of course, I am in love with graphic T-shirts, which is why in this department, our T-shirts are the best. And in fact, I am wearing one right now. I always try to have a graphic tee on when the boss lets me wear one. And so this is the one I got at the Muhammad Ali Center last week. And I thought it went perfectly with our conversation that we're going to have today. So today we're going to be talking about being ready for the moment. Now, for some of you, when you hear ready for the moment, you're probably thinking, well, what moment? Now, the one that's obviously standing out is what's going to happen Monday morning at 8 a.m. for those of you wild enough to take an 8 a.m. class on a Monday. You know, you'll think about that decision later. But some of you are thinking about that moment. What's that first day of classes going to look like? Am I going to find it? Do I know what building it's in? Is it going to be hot? Is it going to be cold? Am I going to learn? All of the different things that might trigger a feeling inside of you, but I want you to know you are ready for it. And so keeping with our Leadership City Limits music theme, I want to talk about what it means to take the center stage as a leader here at the University of Texas. So without further ado, let's start with the one that I share every single year without fail, and that's knowing your why. Everybody say why. You need to know your why because that's the thing that is going to drive what you do. If you're not clear about your why, you will sign up for every student organization. Don't do that. You will double and triple. I've even had students attempt to triple major. It's a thing that can be attempted. It's not something that you'll be successful at, but you can attempt it. But when you're not clear about your why, you go a bunch of different directions. It's every organization you see on Speedway during Party on the Plaza. You're like, I want to sign up for it. And then 3 months later, you're wondering why you're tired and burnt out because you just did it because it sounded good, or they gave pizza, or they had the best giveaways, right? And those things do happen. But when you're clear about your purpose, when you're clear about the thing that you want to do, it makes it a lot easier to say no to the right things. And I know that many of us are from out of town. Some of us are from, anybody from out of state? Awesome. Who came the farthest? Where are you from? Kansas, okay. Delaware, that's pretty far. China, okay, I think you win. Let me just double check. What's that? Mexico, okay. Awesome, was that a school song? Okay. I saw another hand, go ahead. Mexico, okay, we got 2 from Mexico. Anybody else? New York, okay, that's far too. So, as you can see, we're from all over the place. And so as a result, we're trying to get familiar with a new city, a new building, new people, possibly a new roommate. How many of you are living with somebody you've never met before ever in your life? Pretty much most of the room, right? Okay, that's gonna require some good communication skills. We'll come back to that in just a second. But when you're clear about that why, this is where the rubber really meets the road, because then you don't sign up for everything. Then you don't try to be on the e-board of every student organization. You don't apply for everything that comes up, because there's some things you will have to say no to. But when you're clear about your why, I promise you it makes things easier. So what I want you all to do is get those phones out, get that paper out, because we got to do a little bit of work. I like workshopping. We like practicing. It's not homework, because some of y'all are already ready to go. No, it's not homework. Yes. Thank you. That's the cheat code. That's the cheat code for getting free food. Get in, go in, get the food, leave. That is the cheat code for it. I've done that. That's why I still work in higher ed, because I get to eat all the time. But here's what I want you all to do. I want you all to get your phones out, get the paper out, because we're going to take about 3 to 5 minutes to do this exercise I like doing here at this conference. Here's the first thing. I want you all to answer these few questions, okay? I want you to answer these 3 questions. The first one is, why am I here? Now, it's not the existential question, all right? It's why you're here at UT, all right? Why am I here at UT? I had to be specific. I had a group ask, well, that's really deep. Dr. Jones, I can't really answer that as an 18-year-old. Yes, you can. Why are you here at UT? The second question I want you to answer, why did I choose this major? Some of you are debating that at this moment. Any engineers in the room? Engineering majors? All right, okay. Let's talk next Friday, all right? See how that fundamentals class goes that first week, all right? Then question number 3 is, what are the things you want to, I typically ask for about 2 or 3 of these, but you can do just one. What are the things you want to accomplish this semester, but think about why you want to do this. Why is it important to do? So take a couple minutes. And what I want to do is I usually take about 2 or 3 volunteers at this point. It's challenge by choice. I know it's early in the morning and somebody's asking you to stand up in front of a group of strangers and share, as you're comfortable, one of your responses to this question. But I got prizes for you. Not in the room, but I do have prizes for you. We'll make sure we get those to you before the end of the day. But take about another minute. And then I'll explain why I have you do this. While we wait, as Scott said earlier, make sure that at the end of every session, please complete those assessments for us. That's very important to this conference experience. The reason why we're able to have so many of you in here and do some of the great sessions that we're doing is because you all give us great feedback every year. There's things we no longer do because students said, stop it, all right? There's things that we get to keep doing, like I get to keep standing up here because y'all said keep doing it. So thank you, I like you. You should come with me everywhere I present, because I don't always get applause, but take about another 20 seconds. Okay. Who wants to be one of my brave, you're already there, awesome. So come on up, introduce yourself, give us name, major, and hometown, and then answer that first question for me.
Hello, I am Beatrix. I've been living in Austin most of my life. My major is mathematics. I'm here at UT to learn about mathematics because it's close to my house. I chose the major because I like mathematics, and I want to accomplish learning mathematics.
Okay, thank you, dude. Appreciate it. See me after I got the All right. Who else? Right there. I'll come to you. Make it easier. Can y'all follow me on camera? We're live streaming, okay. Give it up for our liberal arts instructional technology studio, making it easy to record. Got it. Stand up for us. Stand up for us.
Hello, my name is Andrew, and I'm from Laredo, Texas, but I'm here at UT because it's close to home, and it was also the cheapest school I could afford. Why I chose, my major is biomedical engineering, and I chose this major because I've always liked robotics and mechanics, but I mean, we're also a machine, and I think it's a shame to just stop learning. And I think that's a problem we have in society, not to go to college, or not to just keep learning, or not to change this world. And we're just such smart creatures as humans, and we can definitely do more. And what was the last question?
Last question is, give me an example of something you want to accomplish.
Oh, yeah, no, going back to like just tracing back to humanity, we can accomplish so much just by putting your effort into it, whether it be getting stronger, making friends, being a better son or daughter, a citizen, or even a student. And I think my two biggest goals are just to get stronger and smarter, because that's how I can change this world.
Let's give it up for Andrew. Let me get one more. Let me get one more on this side. All right, you had your hand up first. I'm not going to skip over you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
I'm Jacob, and I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas. How ghetto. I'm here because I want to change the trajectory of my life and to break the cycle of no higher education in my family. And then I chose my major, which is biochemistry, because I want to be a pediatric oncologist after medical school, and I think it lines up with my goals perfectly. And then some of my goals this semester is just to make good grades and have fun.
So let's make sure, all of you who responded, make sure you come see me afterwards so I can get your contact information and give you the prize that we have on behalf of the department. The reason why I have students do this every year is, number one, there's gonna come a point in the semester where you are going to question all three of these decisions. I'm serious. You are going to question, why in the world did I choose this? Why did I sign up for this? And there's gonna be moments where you gotta study late, or you're going to have to be a part of a study group that can only meet at 10 p.m. on the 5th floor of the library, and you forgot to drink coffee earlier that day. Or you're going to have a test sprung on you on what's supposed to be syllabus day, but that's the first day of classes, just so y'all know. It's supposed to be, but professors sometimes opt to give you the syllabus and then go straight into a lecture with a pop quiz. That can happen. Don't be afraid, okay? Okay? Why y'all so scared? It's not, okay, relax. You got into UT, y'all can handle it. But the reason why I have you write this down is because I want you to put this somewhere that you can refer back to frequently. Because it's your why that's going to keep you disciplined. It's the why that's going to keep you driven. It's the why that's going to keep you focused in moments where life is lifing, all right? That's the best way I can put it. Adulting has already started. When your parents drove away, or the folks that helped you move in or get you up here, life was already beginning when you walked across that stage. A couple of months ago, for those of you who just graduated, or for those of you who've been here, life had already begun. But now, this is where a lot of harder work is about to begin. And so as a result of that, the adulting part of your journey is underway. And what that's going to mean is you're going to have some self-motivation, or be driven within, and your why is going to help you do that. As Simon Sinek said, and this is one of my favorite books, I refer to this book all the time when I'm coaching students or mentoring students. I'm constantly going back to that why statement. Whenever you all show up and meet with me, and side note, I meet with students every Friday. I don't take work meetings on Fridays. Now, I work, but I don't take meetings with staff or anybody else on Fridays. I only meet with students. I teach class, and then I meet with students. That is my Friday. So if you ever need to meet with me, want to talk with me, Friday is the best day to do that, because that day is reserved for you all. So when I'm meeting with students on Fridays, I'm always going back to, so what was the why? Is this thing you're about to do, is this decision you're about to make, is it in line with your why? And a lot of the times, because life has happened, some students are like, well, not necessarily, but it sounded good. Okay, that's fair. We've all done things because it sounded good, right? We listened to the Beyonce album because it sounded good, right? All right, it was a good idea. We signed up for the free food because it sounded good, or we do different things because it sounds good, but is it the thing that's in line with you? Now, the good news is that this is a time to explore. This is a time to figure things out. But when you're clear about your why, it makes it a lot easier to do that. And so please hold on to these why statements, because it's going to be very important for you to be able to come back to that. I've even had students that 4 years later, after they've graduated, they still have their why statements. Matter of fact, one of our students who sat where you're all sitting, Arquala Davis, just graduated back in May. She came here from the Killeen, Belton area, just quiet. Didn't even know she was in the room. She came up to me after my keynote and said, "Thank you, I really appreciate that, and I'm gonna take this seriously." And I was like, "Okay, we'll see what happens." Then in September, when the RA info sessions happened, which will happen next month for those of you interested in becoming RAs, she signed up to become an RA. She got the job. She stayed in RA with us for all 4 years. She participated in our Longhorns for a Culturally Competent Campus program, which I'll tell you more about later. She graduated from that and was active in our student group. She also was a member of our residence hall, of one of our residence hall councils. She was a very active student. In fact, she won, I forget the name of it, one of the most prestigious student awards on campus, and she got to be the commencement speaker at the big graduation, not in her department, but at the graduation where everybody has to watch at the football field. She was the keynote speaker for the students. But what she learned was in this room. It wasn't because of me, and it wasn't because of what I said, but it was because she was clear about her why very early. And so the sooner you start anchoring that down, it does make things a little bit easier. Her story is to tell on her own, but I will tell you all the things that she had to overcome just to even get to UT would make you cry. And then the things she endured while here, even more so, but she stayed the course and she remembered her why. And so she's one of my favorite success stories about this conference because she showed up to every session. She filled out the assessment, all right? She made sure that she came back to things. And so I want you all to take this time that we have together seriously today. So not only do you need to know your why, you got to define leadership. Everybody say leadership. We say that word. We say it a lot. We even put it in our conference. But we want to make sure that you walk away knowing what that means. Now, there's a bunch of different examples and a bunch of different definitions. I only listed my two favorite, okay? So super biased, but go with me for just a second, all right? One of my favorite definitions of leadership comes from this Forbes article where Kevin Cruz said that leadership is a process of social influence. Everybody say influence, which maximizes efforts of others towards achievement of a goal. So that word influence is the driver. Everybody has influence. So here's what I want you to hear, clear as day right now. You do not have to hold a title or position to have influence. Does that make sense? You do not have to have a position or a title. And so some of you are going to go into organizations. Some of you are going to go and intern for companies. Some of you are going to go and be a part of experiences where it might appear that the person with the title is the one that's the most important. But that's not necessarily true. If Dr. Tyus was standing up here, she would give you countless examples of how she refers to folks that aren't necessarily in her positions as the folks that are the leaders in our department. I've been under her leadership for 4 years now, and one of the things that I admire about her is the fact that she constantly is telling us that she works for us. And that didn't make sense at first because it's like, you the associate vice president. I work for you. But in practice, when I watch how she operates, when I watch how she moves, when I watch the decisions that are made, it's clear she means it because she uses her influence to impact my life and the people that I work with and you all as students. And so that's why I said when you see her on campus or when you see Dr. Kirksey, feel free to say hello because it's what you all tell us that drives what we do. You are the stakeholders. She views you all as the board of directors. Now, don't get me wrong. We got higher-ups that we got to report to, so don't go walking out of here going, we don't have to report to the dean. Oh, yes, you do, all right? But the key is that how are you going to use your influence? Because influence can be used for positive things. And then influence can be used for not so positive things. My other favorite definition by Dennis Roberts is leadership is conviction in action. Now, we all know some folks with some convictions that we really, really like and admire. And then we know some folks that have some convictions that we're like, ooh, right? So it can go both ways, but it's up to that individual. It's up to you all as leaders to decide how you are going to use your influence here at the University of Texas and beyond. We say what starts here does what? I'm glad y'all know that already. What starts here changes the world. Your why tells you for what. Because one thing to say what starts here changes the world, but Dr. Joseph over in the LBJ school put a caveat on that and said, make sure you know the for what. And that goes back to your why statement. What starts here changes the world through what you're going to do, and what everybody who gave examples and what you wrote down, that's what's going to happen. But if you don't have a clear definition of leadership, here's what's going to happen. You're going to fall for the typical leadership traps. One of them is lack of a clear direction, no real why, no clear focus, but more importantly, trying to please everybody. Ooh. That's a tough one, because I say that as a people pleaser. I don't like not being liked. I'll be honest. If Scott had said, no, we're good, we don't need you to speak, I would have been hurt. Not gonna lie. If we would have read the evaluations and they were like, okay, Dr. Jones is overkill, that would have hurt. Because I'm like, man, I like the students. I thought they liked me, but that's not how that always happens. Trying to be a people pleaser is the quickest way to exhaust yourself. It's the quickest way to get frustrated. And more importantly, it's the quickest way to burn out and then leave the position that you're in a little bit too soon when you're on the way to greatness. So have a clear definition of leadership. Y'all still rolling with me? Okay, good deal. All right. Yes.
I mean, you might just be too amazing and we're going to have these high expectations for the rest of the thing.
Sure. It can happen. Stay with me to the end. Because I got something for that. It's not being too amazing, I promise you. What I will say, though, Beatrix, to that point, though, is I will say this. I've never been the smartest person in the room. I ain't even get into UT, okay? So let me just put that out there. I came here and visited many years ago. I can tell y'all. So my 20th high school reunion was a couple weeks ago, so do the math, all right? Y'all engineers in here. So when I came here back in whatever year that was, I came and visited, and at that time, I thought I wanted to be an engineering major. And then I went to the engineering building at that time, and a student was talking and giving us a tour, and I looked, while they were talking, I looked under their desk, and I saw a pillow and a blanket, and I went, hey, I see all of this math on the wall that I can't read, but what is this? And he was like, oh, yeah, man, I slept in here. I've been sleeping in here the last 2 nights, and on that day, Dr. Jones went on a totally different pathway because my why wasn't clear. It got very clear after that. Sleeping in the lab? I don't think so. But then the funny part is that becoming a design major, I slept in the lab there too. So it ended up happening anyway. So the long and short of it is you'll figure out what you want to do. Otherwise, you're going to get told what to do, okay? So you got to develop the habits. How many of you, if you study the exact same way you did in high school, you're going to be successful here at UT? Okay. I get the same response every year. It's going to be like 1 or 2 of y'all, right? Totally fair. You got to develop the habits that are going to make you successful, not only in your major or your discipline, but really more so just based on how you define success. There are habits that go along with that. There are habits that go along with being successful based on how you define it. Please don't let other people define success for you, okay? You have grades that you have to get, but your grades are not your metric of success, okay? It's a point in time. It is a representation rather of a point in time of your performance, but it's not necessarily a reflection of who you are as a person. Don't personalize the score. Y'all hear me? Where my freshmen at? Raise your hand. All my freshmen. Okay. Don't personalize the score. Some of you, for the very first time in your life, are going to get this thing called a B. It is not the end of the world, because I have never, ever, did I just say ever? I did, ever, seen a job interview where we asked, what grade did you get on that calculus exam on August 23rd of 2022 at the University of Texas? No one's going to ask that. What we will ask is, tell us about a time where you invested in your leadership development. You can point back to this, all right? This is tangible. These are the things that people ask about. What did you do to make yourself a more well-rounded person? We got plenty of smart people. The engineering firms, the business offices, the law offices that you all are gonna go and work for are gonna be filled with Ivy League grads and people that are smart just like you. So intelligence, we know you got that. We know it for a fact. We've seen your scores. Some of y'all are like brilliant. Most of y'all, all of y'all are brilliant in more ways than one. But some of y'all like really like smart. We'll quantify that later. But you're gonna have to develop some habits that are gonna help you be successful along the way. And so I've given you all some strategies here, and don't worry if you can't see this, I promise you Scott will make sure that you get a copy of these slides. But the first one is you gotta learn to ask for help. I know, it's scary, but you're gonna have to learn to ask for help. You are. Help-seeking behaviors are great, even if you don't think you need it. Because one of the hallmarks of a mature person is the ability to say, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what's happening. And so it's the ability to ask that question that puts you in position to get the help that you need, because here's the reality. If you wrote on that paper that one of your things that you want to accomplish this semester is to get all A's, that's ambitious and it is achievable. But you don't put in the work to develop the habits to get it, you're setting yourself up for a disaster or disappointment in more ways than one. But learning to ask for help is going to really be helpful. It really is. Because guess what? That's what all of us are hired to do. It's our job when you walk into our offices, when you show up to programs like this, and you say, I've got a question. I've had a hard time swiping my ID card at this location and that location. Who can I talk to? It's our job to point you in the right direction. If you're saying, you know what? I just can't seem to get it right in this calculus class. The Sanger Learning Center is right over there in Jester. We've got a good relationship with them. We will walk you over there and introduce you to the tutors and to the directors and the leadership team over there, because guess what? They've got students on staff that have already passed the classes you're trying to pass, and they've taken those tests already, and guess what? Some of them were bold enough to sign up for this job called a supplemental instruction tutor to sit in that same class all over again and help you in a study session. How do I know? Because it used to be my job at another school named UT in another state with that camera's rolling, different shade of orange. This is the better one, right? But when I was in that job, it was my job to put student leaders in those classes to make sure. And over at Sanger, they're doing the exact same thing. And the students that participate, that show up early and often, the data is incredible. If you do it more and you show up frequently, you'll have the success that you need. But you got to learn how to ask for help. You also got to learn to say no. Everybody say no. Good, we're off to a good start there. Practice that in a couple of weeks. Again, when you see all of these different things you can participate in, there's some things you have to say no to. Now, it's gonna be difficult because it's all going to sound like it's going to help you achieve your goals. It's all going to sound like, but everything sounds so good. Every program, every party, everything sounds so great. The challenge is going to be knowing which one's right for me. I'm not telling you not to have a good time. I'm definitely not telling you don't explore. What I am saying is you got to be so clear or somewhat clear about the direction you're heading in. It may not even be no, but it might be not now, okay? That might sound better for some of us. So learn to say no, say I don't know. You also have to create routines. Now, am I saying you got to open up your phone, have apps open all the time? No, but there are good apps. I got a couple recommendations for you that are saved on my desktop, so don't come up to me afterwards asking for it because I don't have them with me, but I have them saved on my desktop. But the one that I really like is mapping out your plan. Right now, you don't know enough about your schedule and your walking routine to be able to put that together just yet, but by the end of next week, I want you all to have a plan for how you're going to navigate your study schedule, your social life. It doesn't have to be planned to the minute like my cousin Sterling did. That's not That was ridiculous. My cousin played, he played basketball at Northwestern, and he was like, oh my gosh, I got to map out. He even had it mapped out to the minute of when he was going to call us in the family on the phone. And I was like, great, I get to be your 9:05 on Thursday morning. Come on, dude. But I will say that some of us, we do need to be a little bit more organized. We do need to map out and detail things. And as we're finding ways to do that, what that's going to do is help you develop those habits. It's going to help you be successful, but more importantly, it's going to point you in the right direction. Y'all still with me? We good? Y'all learning something? I promise you, we got about 2 more points, and then we're going to do some Q&A. So here's my favorite one, Dr. Kirksey. I quoted you. I got you on the slide. So back in 2020, my boss told us, he said, listen, we can make some modifications and we can make some adjustments, but we never will have an excuse to do nothing. What we will do is try to find a way to differently do. Everybody say differently do. The thing about differently do that's been resonating with me these last 2 years is the fact that there's still an action word in there. I still got to do something. I just got to do it differently. Now, for all of you, because a lot of freshmen raised their hands, this is going to be new. So there's some adjustments you're going to have to make. There's some things that you're going to have to do differently than what you did. You're still going to study, but you might need to study differently. You're still going to socialize and have friends and hang out, but you might need to do it. There you go. Y'all are getting it. So we got to learn how to make those modifications and adjustments. And there's a couple of strategies that I want you to employ that will help you do this. And the first one is you got to be okay with making mistakes. You gotta be. This is a learning organization. Higher education is built for you to come in and learn, and part of learning is you might get some things wrong. And for some of you, this might be the first time you've encountered the level of wrongness. Yeah, we'll go with it. This level of wrongness that you're gonna encounter over the next couple of years. It's okay. Be okay with making those mistakes. Just learn from them. Don't keep making the same ones. Because then that's just bad. That's insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Be okay with making mistakes. Think creatively. Think outside the box. Back in 2020, when I presented here virtually, I did a session called Blow Up the Box. And that's titled appropriately after Dr. Tyus, because that's what she was telling us. And one of the things she freed us to do was think creatively. I love the fact that when I show up to work every day, I don't get the same thing every day. Why I show up to this job and have done so every day for the last almost 5 years is because when I walk in, I know if something didn't work, I have permission to change it. I don't have to go set a meeting and try to overqualify why I want to go a direction. I get to do it. And so thinking creatively, you all can do the same thing. That's how Michael Dell over in Adobe all those years ago created Dell computers. That's how Facebook got created. People started thinking creatively about certain social problems. One of our former residents, Yoon Lee, when he lived in Jester, he talked about how he experienced a lot of loneliness and isolation. And so he spent the next couple of years of undergrad developing the Pop Social app. It's not Pop Social, but it is a social app. And if you go into the app market, you'll see that there's thousands of users that use that app now, all because Yoon and his friends, when they came over here from Korea, they were trying to find ways to make friends with people in the United States. And so now they've developed this app, and it started off just for UT students, and thousands of students over the last couple of years have gone in and used this app to swipe left or right, not based on what people look like, no, but based on their interest. And they create these things called pop-ups all over campus, and we've helped sponsor a few throughout the years at the coffee shops and the library so that people can meet people and make friends, because everybody's not outgoing, everybody's not extroverted like I am. And so having those options is great. But you got to learn how to differently do things, and I want to challenge you all to think creatively, but also ask questions. Challenge yourselves to think differently. Hang around people that are different. You're on a campus with 50,000+ people, located almost in downtown Austin, with people moving here by the thousands daily, okay? So traffic is gonna be chaotic, all right? But then also, that means that that's a lot of diversity of thought, in action, race, religion, creed, gender, all of those different expressions of how people show up in the world. You got to find a way, not how to navigate it, because I think navigating is almost like avoiding, but how to engage. Everybody say engage. When we engage, we lean in. I'm not backing away. I'm leaning in and trying to figure out, okay, how do I have this conversation with my roommate? I'm noticing that we think differently about some things, like how late he stays up on his PS5. Still can't get one for some reason, but it's neither here nor there. Or their study habits or lack thereof, the laundry habits or lack thereof. That's what those roommate agreements are for, right? You gotta challenge yourself. You gotta challenge yourself to think differently, but here's the good news, you've got this. You do have it. And the thing that I like about it is the fact that there's so many different ways that you can challenge yourself on this campus. I'll give you an example of one of my favorites in just a second, but I wanna hit you with this. You gotta maximize the moment. Do not wait until junior and senior year to start trying to think like the business person you wanna be. Start now. Don't wait until you walk across the stage to start thinking like the engineer or the biomedical engineer or the biochemist or the lawyer. Think like it right now. Here's how you do that. Number one, you level up your skill set. What that means is that you may need to stay after class a couple of times to get some questions answered by that professor doing the work that you want to do. That's how people get internships. That's how people get work study. That's how people get those lab assignments on the projects that they want to work on. What you also have to do is join the professional association in your field as a student member. Some of you are a part of colleges where your department actually pays for your student membership into the professional association of your choice. Why would I ask you to join the professional association? Because ultimately you want to become a professional in that discipline, right? So then it's best to know what the practitioners in your discipline are doing, and the way that you do that in a way that doesn't take up all your time, effort, and energy is joining the association. You'll see the journal articles. You'll see the conversations that are being had, and while you're still a student, you can get ahead so that by the time you graduate, you're already years ahead of your time. That's how the great ones do it. Get a mentor. Now, I know some of you are like, but how do we do that? That's my job today, to help you do that. One of the first things you do is very simple. There's somebody on campus, you admire their work, or you're interested in getting to know them. It's really simple. Start just by reaching out. Your professors love talking about themselves. I say that as a professor, okay? They love talking about themselves because guess what? We didn't go to school, write all these dissertations, do all of this work, study in these labs for it to sit on the shelf and not talk about. So if a student is fascinated with something that I did, I'm gonna, at least me as Brandon Jones, I'm gonna go out of my way to make sure that I get a conversation with that student. But mentoring goes a little bit differently and it's a little bit deeper. This is somebody who is there to support you, to guide you, point you in the right direction. But I came to find out something different this past weekend. I was at a summit and my friend Jess had talked about how there's a difference between having a mentor and an advocate. You need both. And so I should have put advocate in there too, because an advocate is speaking your name when you're not in the room. Your advocate is saying, or your ally is saying, hey, you know what? Andrew would be really good for this opportunity. I think Andrew would be the one you want to do that. And your mentor is going to come alongside Andrew and say, hey, Andrew, heard about this opportunity, think you'd be great for it. Make sure your resume is up to date. All of y'all are going to need a resume, whether you think you do or not. Everybody will. But every one of you are a part of a college that has its own career services unit. So use it. Don't be like me and wait till the week before graduation and decide, you know what, I should pay these folks a visit. Didn't go well. It didn't go well. And I did the same thing with the master's degree. But when I got to the PhD, it wasn't gonna take 3 times. I figured it out by then. I need to have that cover letter ready to go. I need to have that resume ready to go. If you're interested in becoming an RA, you will need both of those items. Go ahead and get to work on it now. Even if you only did one thing in high school, even if the only thing you did was extracurricular activities, we'll show you how to write it. We'll show you how to put that language together. But use the resources that are available to you. My former supervisor, Dr. Anton Reese, used to say it like this. In college, you're at what's considered to be the river of knowledge. Never walk away thirsty. How dare we come to the river with all of these resources, with everything we need, and we walk back still dehydrated. You are here, and you're in situations like this. You're in conferences like this. You're living in residence halls. You're eating the food prepared by these wonderful catering and dining and event services professionals. And you're surrounded by some of the smartest people on the planet. Don't walk away from here having not engaged or experienced anything different than what you came here with. Sign up for different things. And so I guess I missed one of my slides. Hang on one second. I did. It didn't go through. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to write this down. And I'm going to get it sent out. Scott and I are going to put it on the Canvas page because I can't believe that slide didn't save, but that's okay. There's a program called Longhorns for a Culturally Competent Campus, LC3. Earlier, you heard me talk about being able to engage difference, or more specifically, some of you are thinking about how am I going to change my mindset so that I can engage with difference or commonality. And LC3 is a 10-week workshop that we offer in the fall and spring where students like yourselves can come in, and for 10 weeks, we sit down with you and we help you increase your intercultural competence. Intercultural competency is the ability to shift your capability and mindset around difference and commonality. And it is a great workshop. 89% of the students who participated in this workshop, I know because I look at the data daily, 89% of students who participated in this program since 2017 have increased in their intercultural competence. They've gone on to do things like work in student government. Some of them work in actual government capacities now. Arquala, that I mentioned to you earlier, she's doing Teach for America, and then she's going to UT Health Sciences. She got into all of her top graduate school choices, which included NYU. I think Stanford was on her list as well. But then UT gave her the better package, and so she's going with UT Health Sciences. We've got students that got into their honors programs. How many of y'all live in Jester? Okay, so Hui, who works the front desk, I forget which floor he works on, but he was my student in LC3. He got into his nursing honor society, and the thing that he put in his statement was the experiences and the different things he learned during the 10 weeks of LC3 and the work that he does with us in LC4. We're gonna send out an invitation for you to apply. Now, we can only take about 20 or 30 spots each semester, but be on the lookout because we're also gonna be offering workshops around some of those same topics. Your RAs will be helping us facilitate that. So for those of you who live in the halls and those of you who may not, there will be an opportunity for you to do that. So look for an invitation to join Longhorns for a Culturally Competent Campus. That should go out today or tomorrow on that Canvas page. So with that, I'm gonna quit talking, one, because I want some water. Two, I wanna give you a chance to do this one thing. This is a giant QR code. This is not a survey or an assessment. This is the link to my contact information so that I don't have to pass out 1,000 business cards. Scan that QR code, save it, reach out to me, okay? The reason why I do this every year is because I know that there's a few of you that have questions that you may not want to ask in a group this size. That's cool. Come find me. I make myself, this is my job. And as Dr. Tyus says, I work for you. And because I work for you, I make myself available to you. And so if for some reason we can't agree on a time, I do show up here on weekends. I've done it before. UT takes care of me either way. All right, so if I need to show up on a Saturday before the kickoff to the football game for us to have I've done it because I want to make sure that I'm here to support you in whatever way that I can. And so if you need access to me, you got it right here. But with that, I'm going to stop, take a sip of water, and give you all a chance to ask any questions that you might have. And I have no idea how much time I have, but I go over every single year. So somehow Scott gives me an extra 30 minutes out of thin air every year. But anywho. What questions can I answer? You want this one? Okay, and then I'll use that one. Perfect.
Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask?
This is less of a question, more a comment. Make sure when you're making your roommate agreements that you include a provision that your roommate can't put an ugly plastic tarp in the middle of the room as a divider.
I appreciate that Res Life plug-in there, Beatrix. Thank you. Yeah, please. Yeah, on your roommate agreement, yeah, you can't use the plastic thing to make a divider in the room. You can't do that. All right. Hey, we got a question right there for us. Yeah, and please feel free to get up, get water, move around. Please feel free to do that. Yes. What's your name?
My name is Ramya. My question is, whenever you see students pursuing their why, what are some habits that have set them up so that once they start saying no, they don't feel demotivated if they don't see immediate success? And when it comes to perseverance, what is the similarities in the students that end up following their why forever?
Okay. So I want to make sure I answer that first part. I'm going to make sure I understand it. So the first question I heard you say was, when students develop the habit to start saying no, what are some strategies that I've seen that work? And then for the students that are, you're looking for perseverance strategies after that. Okay. So one of the things that stands out about people that have started to say no and keep from being unmotivated or demotivated is staying the course. You gotta stay the course, because at first, as with any change, it's gonna shake people up. Oh, you suddenly creating boundaries for yourself. Be ready for that, right? Your friends may start looking at you funny, and those students who persisted through that were those that were willing to take the time, and as Dr. Tyus would say, give grace to people. It's like, hey, this is what I need from me. This is my act of self-care. Now, self-care is not an excuse to be mean to people. I got a whole presentation on that one if y'all want that. I'll do that one later in the year. But what those students did and what they've done very good jobs of is making their boundaries clear. It's not the fact that it's against anyone else. It's just that these are patterns of behaviors that those students could no longer participate in. And the way to stay motivated is to stay the course and to surround yourself with people that actually understand the decision. Everybody's not going to go along with that. Everybody's not going to like that. And some people, it will frustrate them. However, if you keep a couple of people that are around you going, like a mentor or an advisor or somebody that you trust that you can go to and just say, oh my gosh, like people are really pushing back on this. If you can put yourself in a position to surround yourself with those kind of people, you'll be able to persist. And for those folks that made that decision and continue to persist, I think another one of the success points that were there was that when it got rough, they remembered their why. They went back to it. They went back to it and it was like, you know what? I forgot I had that in my room. Oh my gosh, I forgot. And it really motivated me. When I talk about mapping out the plan, when I talked about that earlier, part of your mapping out the plan strategy needs to be, what do I do to fill myself back up? Let me give you all this one. Thank you for this question, by the way. One of the other presentations that I do is called Minding Your D's and F's. Not your grades, because hopefully nobody gets that. But the D's are the things that deplete you, and the F's are the things that fill you up. Everybody has those things. And you need to surround yourself with those. You need to be aware of the things that drain you. And so another successful strategy is minding those D's and F's, which means you gotta be self-aware. You gotta know yourself. And you're gonna be discovering more things about yourself throughout the next couple of years that you didn't know. You're gonna know your trigger points. You're gonna know, hey, you know what? These are the things that I don't really thrive well in. I discovered so many things about myself towards the end of undergrad, and I'm still learning things every day. But the things that I'm more clear about and the boundaries that I'm better at drawing came from the fact that I recognized I don't thrive in certain environments. I don't thrive under certain leadership styles. Like, we're very transformational here. I don't do well in transactional environments. And so I'm thankful that over the last almost 5 years, I've been in an environment where it's been, hey, this is the direction I want to go in, and I have a supervisor that's been pushing me, and when I don't rise to the standard that I've set for myself, I've got somebody that says, you're better than that. And not only are you better than that, I'm not gonna let you settle for less than that. And so it's hard at times, but I appreciate the push. I really do. And so surround yourself with those folks. Did that answer your question? Awesome, thank you, thank you. Good to see you. I like that shirt. I like that shirt. Oh, dude, listen, we can talk comics all day. That's another question if y'all want. I would happily answer that.
I have one. My name is Knox, and so I went ahead, looked at the forum, downloaded your contact info, and I'm wondering, would you like us to send you ours as well through the app?
If you want to, yeah. Well, I mean, yes, you should, yeah.
Okay.
You can. You don't have to do it that way. Some people email, some people send text. It's fine either way.
Okay,
Either
thank
one's
you.
fine. Thank you for that question. Yes, got another one right over there. And yes, I am a graphic tee person, but I am a comic oh my God, I love comics. Yeah.
Hi,
I saw
my
that
name is
shirt.
Camila,
Yeah.
and my question to you would be, how can we narrow down our whys? Like, do you have any advice for that? Because I have too many whys right now,
Okay.
and I know that I should maybe try to narrow it down in order to be successful. So.
When you say too many, are you saying numerically or that the whys are so broad you can't stay focused?
I say numerically.
Okay, how many do you have if you don't mind me asking?
Like, I know that I have a passion for sciences. I know that I have a passion for my culture. I know that I have a passion for liberal arts. I know
Okay.
that I have a passion for languages. But there's only so many majors and minors that I'm able to
Sure.
take. So how do I narrow it down?
Sure. So I don't think you're needing to narrow down your why. I think you need to, what you're looking for is how do I create an experience where I'm able to pursue my passion, and it kind of molds them all together. That's the thing I love about liberal arts, but that's also, as my friend Dr. Sobers would tell you all, is the shadow side of the liberal arts. We give you everything for that reason. And so our whole college is built on explore. Figure this out. Let's find the pathway. So I don't necessarily think you need to narrow down your why. I think you want to narrow down the how. Because right now, you can't ride 3 horses at once. Right now, you're like, I like sciences, I like this, I like that. There's a way to accomplish those. Perfect example, I was a graphic design major, but I love working with college students. And one day, I was in our multicultural affairs office, and Lachey Gratis at that time said, you're talking about going, because I wanted to go design shoes for Nike, clearly, right? And I was like, dude, I really want to go design shoes for Nike, but I really, in the evening, when I leave Nike, I'm going to go work at the University of Oregon. And she said, can I just say something? I was like, sure. She said, you have it backwards, just a little bit. And what she meant was, she said, I see more of a passion for working with students than I do for you. She said, I've never seen a shoe design from you. And I was like, she's like, I never saw a drawing, a rendering of any type of shoe, but you're gonna suddenly magically go to Beaverton and work for Nike. Okay. She said, but what I do see is that you have a passion for working with students. I see that every day. She said, I see you coming in this office, eating up all our food and our snacks, coming to every event. Have you thought about working in higher education? And I went, like most people, what is higher education? Sitting there as a college student asking that question, right? She said, it's literally what we're doing. She said, there's a whole track called Student Affairs, and I think you'd be great for it. The rest is history. I've never left college since then. Seriously, that was 2006, right? Been working here ever since. Been working in higher ed ever since. So what you got to figure out is your how, not necessarily your why. It's clear that you have a passion for the liberal arts, and there's some ways that you want to express that. You just don't know which one. You'll figure that out by senior year. That's why the classes that you'll take this first year, those advising sessions and those interest meetings you'll go to, that's gonna help you pick the pathway that you choose to decide. But the beautiful thing about the liberal arts, and I say that as a liberal arts professor and grad, is that if you change your mind, it's okay. And that's for most of your disciplines. If you change your mind, it's okay. Most people won't tell you all that, but it's the truth. It's totally fine. But in the liberal arts, we give you several ways to do that. Did I actually answer your question, though? Yeah. Okay, because I answered it like a liberal arts person. So I was like, I gave you 80 options and should have just stayed in one. Okay, good deal. Scott, where am I on time? You're good. Okay. That never happens. Yes. Hang on. Let me get that mic. We're live streaming. Got to get that. It's the first time we've been able to live stream, too, by the way. I'm really excited about that.
My name is Prisha. I wanted to ask you, what's your why that drives you?
That's a good one. So it's a long-winded one, but I'll shorten it. So for me, my why is driven by 3 things. And this is what my father, my grandfather taught me, is what it means to be a Jones man. It's rooted in 3 things: faith, service, and love. I identify as Christian, and so my faith drives how I see the world and how I operate and how I want to show up. Service to everybody. So I come from a family of selfless servants. My grandfather served in our community. My father did the same thing. And for me, it's just carrying on that tradition. And so I tell people I chase purpose, not paper. And so as a result of that, I've been fortunate to be blessed with both. And so in terms of the service component, that's why I'm always looking for ways to serve students. If I'm not serving, I'm not living. That's just me. And then it's love. I love people. It's rooted in those three things. Everything outside of that, that's just not really my thing. And my hope is that in the work that I do and by the time I retire, people see all three of those things in me. So that's my why. I'm committed to faith, service, and love because I think that those are the things that make the world better, and we can use those three things to change the world. So those are my kind of vague whys there. Did I answer your question? Awesome, thank you, thank you. We got a hand right over there. Appreciate y'all asking these questions too. This is really helpful. Y'all enjoying yourselves? Okay, all right. The food good? You liking it? All right, good deal.
Hi, I'm Eli.
Hey, Eli.
I was wondering how broad our why should be, because I feel like, for me, having a why that's too broad would be not giving enough direction, and something too specific, my interests change, so it wouldn't give direction for long enough.
Mm-hmm. So I heard you say how broad our why should be. That's going to really depend on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. But remember, the why is the reason you do it. It's not the thing you do. Your why is the reason behind what you do. Does that make sense? It's the reason. So your reason, it can be as broad as you need it to be as long as it's helpful. And here's the beautiful part about your why. The reason it's written is so you can change it. You wrote it. I didn't write this. That's why I didn't ask to see too many of them, because I'm not influencing that. And so it can be as broad as you need it to be, but over time, Eli, what's going to end up happening is you're going to take advantage of experiences and opportunities that are going to shape that why even more. Because if you would have asked me in 2002 as a freshman at Abilene Christian, what's my why? I couldn't tell you that. I wouldn't have been able to answer that question. I would have been quite frustrated that a speaker stood on a stage asking me that, like some of y'all are right now. But I will say that I would have appreciated it later because it forced me to actually get the process rolling. So to answer your question specifically, it does not, the why doesn't have to be narrowed yet. You've got time to tailor that and cater it to what you need it to be so that it can become your elevator pitch, so that you can say it in 10 to 11 seconds. Today, having only probably thought about it within the last hour, it's gonna take you some time. So I don't want any of you to feel the pressure to get it perfect today. That's not the purpose of the exercise. The purpose is to get it on paper so that you can start to see it. Now, what will happen, Eli, is as you're looking for the how you're gonna accomplish those things, you may see that the how is broad. Just like her question. Your how might be broad, but your why, that's yours. You decide whether it's too broad or too wide. And we could talk a little bit more about that offline in person as well, because I love to see what you put together. But the reality is that your reason is your reason. If you read the book, Start With Why, or Know Your Why, if you read those books, what you'll find is that it takes time to craft that why statement. But once it becomes clear, it's great. It's great. I promise you that. Thank you, Eli. Did I answer your question? Good deal. We got another hand there, and then we got one right here. I say, whichever one you want to go to first. I won't forget you. I promise I won't forget you. Hello.
Hi, I'm Mala, and my question is, what if I'm not here for the right reasons?
At UT or in this room?
At UT or in the room.
Good deal. I was like, hold up now. I'm glad you're here. You're saying, what if I'm not here for the right reason? Well, only you can determine that. Let me start there. Only you can determine whether you're here for the right reason. I would ask you to check in on your reason. Check in on your reason. And as I said earlier, it is okay to change your mind. And I know my admissions friends would tackle me on this stage hearing me say it. But if you need to change your mind, that's okay. If you realize midway through the journey that, you know what, I came here for this, but that's not what I want to do anymore. That's not the direction I want to go in, or my reasoning has changed, and because my reasoning has changed, I need to look into something different. There's plenty of us on campus that can help you with that conversation. So to answer the what if part of that question is, that's up to you, but if it becomes very clear to you that, you know what, this may not be what I needed, let's talk about it. We can figure something out, but don't feel shamed. Never feel shamed because in light of new information, you changed your mind. That is called growth, okay? And we like that. We value that. And don't ever feel ashamed to do that. Nobody, okay? I don't ever want anybody in this conference to feel ashamed, or any student, because you changed your mind. Or if something, in light of new information about yourself, you needed to go a different direction. Did I answer your question? We gonna catch up soon? All right, good deal. We got one right here.
Hi, my name is Layton, and this is more about like a mentor question.
Sure.
So one, I wanted to get your input about how you would go about like reaching out to a mentor, because I know you said to like start doing that, but like if you could give me like an example of like how you would reach out. And then two, like do you think that you can have multiple mentors in like different aspects of like your life, and how would you go about like managing having different mentors?
Yeah, I'm excited about that question. Let me start with the second part of your question. You absolutely can have multiple mentors, because the reality is that as we grow up and as we evolve in our thinking, or as we change in our profession, there's different people that are gonna serve different purposes in our lives. Some are gonna be there for a season, some are gonna be there forever. It just depends on what they were brought in for, or the why behind it, right? So you can absolutely have multiple mentors. You can absolutely have people that serve different purposes. That's also the difference between your mentor and your advocate. Some people are your advocates, and some people are your mentors, and you absolutely can have multiple ones. The reality is that when you all graduate, it becomes difficult for you all to keep up with us, because you all are starting new lives, you're starting families. I had a student that I hadn't seen in years come by after graduation back in May, and he's off to go work in San Francisco for Apple. And I was like, oh my gosh, one of my students works for Apple. That's awesome. Got a hookup on some appliances, not appliances, but some peripheral devices. And that was awesome. But I also realized, we're not gonna be able to keep up as much, because you about to be a whole software engineer in a building, pretty much working 13 and 14-hour days, working to get married. My role in his life is gonna diminish over time. Now, can he reach out? Absolutely. But I also know I'm not gonna play that week-to-week role that I played when he was a freshman, because I stopped seeing him after freshman year. He went on and he actually double majored and got more degrees. So to answer that part of the question, yes, you can. The strategies for how you do that is, number one, look around. See who's doing the things that you admire, or is doing something that you may want to do, and let them know, like, hey, can we go for coffee over at Jester Coffee, or Jester Java, or at Longhorn Coffee? We own that, by the way. So your meal card, your dine-in dollars works at all of those locations, right? Go take them to coffee. Sit down and ask questions about them. Questions get you a lot of things. You know that, right? That's constantly why I'm saying ask questions. The best research started because of a question. Some of the best products we use start with questions. Some of the best relationships will come from the fact that we asked a question. One of the things that I did in the session with your RAs last week was talked about, when we're afraid, we stop asking questions. That's what happens in the world too. When we're afraid, we stop being curious, and then we start shying away. Don't be afraid. They're people. If Dr. Moore was here, he would. If some of you, how many of y'all are taking Dr. Moore's class this semester? Okay, a couple of hands. Listen, Dr. Moore, if he was standing here, he would tell you, these are people. Don't be afraid of people. One time I was in Dr. Moore's class a couple of years ago, and he asked the students in the class, hey, what do y'all think about the deal that the NFL made with Jay-Z and Roc Nation? And people were like, I don't know. And he was like, y'all wanna find out? And people were like, yeah. He calls NFL headquarters in the middle of class and asked to speak to Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell is the commissioner of the NFL. Now, if it was anybody else, that probably would have gone differently. But what he showed us was that these are humans. And he said, hey, this is Dr. Leonard Moore, I'm professor at the University of Texas at Austin. I got a question for Commissioner Goodell about the deal with Roc Nation. And the secretary took the note and gave it to him. And he talked about that later. Roger Goodell's a human. Your president of the university is a human. Your professors, your instructors, they are humans. And so the people that you want mentoring relationships with, you reach out and you ask. It's just say, hey, I really admire your work. You said something that really stood out, and you seem to know a lot about this field, this journey, this role. Would you mind serving as a mentor? Some people are like, oh, that's too much of a commitment. Some people will say, they will tell you the terms of how they can or can't do that. And just keep searching. The main thing is keep searching, but the best thing you can do is ask. Now, it sounds weird to say, will you be my mentor? That sounds a little weird, right? So, but at the same time, if you show up over time consistently, it kind of just happens. The students that I've ended up mentoring was not because they came up to me at this conference and said, will you mentor me? I've had 2 do that, and that worked out. But a lot of the students that that have come to me for that has usually been they just keep showing up in my office. Devon Smallwood showed up back in 2017 when I first got here, and he was just there, like all the time. He'd just come knock on my door. The admin would say, hey, Devon is here. And I'm like, okay. He'd come in my office. We'd talk for a few minutes, and then he just started doing homework. Now, it was a Friday, so he knew unless students were meeting, I just let him hang out. And he became an RA the next year. He started working on film projects. Right now, he's traveling, working on films because he wanted to be like the next Spike Lee, and he's on his way. But my mentoring relationship with him came from, he just kept showing up. And there were times where I'd literally be here at work until 6 or 7 o'clock. Some Fridays, we're bouncing ideas. Our podcast that we have in the department, it used to be called Live. It's now called The Horns Are Home. Y'all make sure when we send that email out to you all, you subscribe to it and listen. But it's not out yet. It's coming. It's coming. The new one is coming. But Devon helped us create that because he was just hanging out in the office all the time. I'm like, let's just put you to work. So sometimes it's just showing up and being persistent. And some of the best relationships with students I have on this campus is really because they just keep coming and they don't give up. And they're like, hey, so there's never been a request to be a mentor. It just happened. And so when that first request for a letter of recommendation came around freshman year or sophomore year, it just kept happening year after year. And so that's how a lot of those happen for me. I know I went on a tangent, but did I answer your question? All right, good deal, good deal. Any others? I see a hand right over here. Scott, where am I on time? 10? Okay, thank you. I see a clock right above you. Perfect. Y'all give it up for Scott Cook, too, back there. Scott used to be the manager for student leadership and advising, and so he was responsible solely for this for the last couple of years, and so now he's the assistant director for student engagement, and so this growth that's happened has definitely been great under Scott's leadership, so thank you, Scott. Appreciate you. I'll give it up for him one more time. And he's my timekeeper, because I go over every year. Yes.
Hi, I'm Hannah.
Hey, Hannah.
I had a question. You spoke on previously about, not taking your grades personally and not internalizing that. Do you have any recommendations as to how to go forward and not, diminish your worth and value as a human just because you were late to class or you got a C or do you have any ways to preserve your mental health that you could recommend?
Oh, listen, I can save you some therapy money and make therapy recommendations based on that. Because I myself had to go through that back in 2020 a lot. So here's what I will say. First and foremost, you got to really ask yourself, this thing that's triggering the panic in you, Hannah, you got to ask yourself, how much of it is true? Are you telling me that because I was 10 minutes late for class, that I'm suddenly the worst person on the planet? Is that really true? You have to ask yourself that, because some of you all show up in my office and I'm like, what's wrong? I mean, I was 30 minutes late. I'm never gonna be a good engineer. Whoa, how did we get there? That's a bit extreme, but I get it. And I get it because pressure, right? And we're trying to make impressions. And also, can we keep it 100? Can we keep it real? We wanna be in control. Ooh, I heard that, yeah. We wanna be in control. We can't control everything. You're going to wake up late. Take a deep breath right now. And out. Good. Now, y'all did that without a mask, so watch out. No, I'm just kidding. But, so I forgot I wasn't supposed to do that. But the thing is, because we want to be in control of everything, it triggers this insane amount of panic and terror that is not always true. So the first thing you have to do is check in and see, okay, what about this situation is actually true? The truth is I'm late. Now, the truth also might be it's my fault. I was up late playing the new Call of Duty. That new Batman Gotham Knights drops in October. It really does. If y'all got a console, holla at your boy. But we stay up late for different things. It's college. It happens. But it doesn't devalue you as a person or a human. It just means I need to make some adjustments in my schedule and in my day to get there on time, depending on where you live. Some of you between now and Monday need to take a practice walk to that first class, especially if you have an 8 a.m. class on Mondays. Why do y'all do that? don't get me wrong, we teach them. I don't. But you gotta map that out. And so, Hannah, to answer your question more specifically, though, I think that the other thing you have to do besides telling yourself the truth is check in and say, okay, does this grade, does this score represent my actual ability to do this work, or does it really represent my performance at a particular point in time? That's the real truth of the question. When you take a test, when you submit homework, when you get a grade, you ask yourself and tell yourself the truth. Is this a real, accurate representation of my actual ability, or just a representation of my performance at a point in time? Because if you hang your hat on this is my performance at a particular point in time, then the pressure is off to overperform and overcommit and overdo it, because you all are humans with real lives and you need to recharge and you need to exercise self-care and practice refilling over time. And so that's how we keep from personalizing it so much and just going, okay, whether I got a perfect score or the worst score, I'm still Hannah, I'm still Brandon, I'm still Scott, I'm still a human. And just continue to remind yourself of that. And that's also a good reminder to tell yourself, I need to actually rest. Some of you will attempt to try to not rest. It doesn't work. You'll need to plug in and recharge, because our bodies are built in such a way that if we don't refuel, you know how your computer has ever shut off on you before? And it was like, wait, what you doing? And it auto-installed the update without saving that paper before cloud-based technology. When I was writing my dissertation, I learned the greatest lesson. One night, I was just typing away, and oh my gosh, the gold was flowing, y'all. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna win me a Pulitzer, right? You don't get them for a dissertation unless you're in the sciences, but whatever. I'm writing, y'all. I'm going in. And magically, my computer went, I'm out. And I was like, wait, what is this? Did it auto-save? It didn't auto-save. Now, did I, kick, scream, and cry? I did. And then immediately purchased a Microsoft 365 subscription, because at the time I didn't work for a university that gave that to us for free. But I had it, and autosave was turned on, and so I never lost the paper again after that. But the autosave lesson taught me that our bodies are like that too. We will shut down. Your body will shut down with or without your assistance. Rest. Please rest. If y'all don't hear me say anything else during this time, please rest. Like, y'all are human, all right? Y'all gonna get some sleep tonight? Some of y'all like, nope. Okay, all right, that's fair. I think we got time for one more. Yep, right here. Wait for that microphone, Want to make sure we getting any online questions, or we good? Okay, good deal.
You spoke about like your mind and how it works. What do you think about overthinking? Because I feel like a bunch of us overthink a lot of things.
Of course we do.
And I feel like this past week I was just overthinking everything, and so I think it could be good to hear someone else's opinion on overthinking.
Man. I not only am I the president, I'm also that's the old hair plugs for men commercial. I'm bald now, so I get the joke about losing hair. But so y'all didn't get the joke. Okay, I'm getting old officially. Y'all are UT 26? Y'all class of 26? Dang. Man, okay. Y'all just made me feel old. So, anyways, I'm not gonna try to explain it. I'm gonna mansplain my way out of that. Your question was about overthinking and why we do it. Well, the reason why a lot of us overthink is because we're trying to control, going back to Hannah's question. Hannah, did I answer your question, by the way? Okay. A lot of us overthink because we're trying to control what's happening. And so if we can't grab control of it, we're like, well, wait a minute, what if I can't do that? What if I can't do this? What if I can't do that? What happens in that is, if you can what if your way into anything. What if I don't show up to class on time? If I don't show up to class on time, they're gonna think I'm lazy, and they're not checking attendance anyway. But you don't show up to class, then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait, then now I'm not gonna be a good business major. And then if I don't get into the business major, it was already hard to get in there. Now I'm gonna struggle with, and you see how far you can keep going? my strategy that I've worked to employ, my friend Dr. Brittany Collins at University at Mizzou taught me this. She said, you've got to learn to move from what if to even if. See the difference there? Because if I keep saying what if, that's taking the shovel and digging the hole, and then I keep getting in it. And then every what if, although it's a good Marvel show, it's not a good way to live your life. You keep digging and getting in, digging and getting in, digging and getting in. But if I say even if, I can still move forward. I can still engage. I can still go. So even if I'm late, I'm going to go to class. I did that freshman year. I showed up to class. It was the second day of the class, and it was a 50-minute class. I showed up 35 minutes late. And I looked Dr. Anthony Morrow in the face, just sweating and just like, I'm here. And he just looks back and just goes, huh, you're still absent, but thank you for coming, right? Dr. Morrow and I are still good friends to this day. Like he still jokes about that. But I went anyway because I was like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? I'm either gonna get marked absent or marked late. But again, it's not an indication of who I am as a person. And so I'm gonna show up. I did it. And that was the birth of Dr. Morrow and I's mentoring relationship, because he was like, he said, you could have just not come. But I was like, no, because your syllabus said I only got X number of absences, and I plan to use a couple of them later in the semester to go to some out-of-town events that y'all don't need to know about. But I say all of that to say that the problem with overthinking is usually it's a mechanism of trying to control everything. You're not gonna be able to control everything. And so you have to develop your even if mentality, because once you do that, you don't get stuck in the what if rut. You do, you know what, even if I don't pass this test, even if it's not the end of the world, I'm not a bad person, or if we're overthinking, it's also a symptom of, we're trying to grasp at whatever we can grasp at. So resist the urge to overthink. Nothing wrong with thinking, but it becomes overthinking when we start personalizing it and making it about ourselves and making it about our value as people. Once that self-talk starts turning into, well, you're crazy, or we don't do that. We don't, that's not what we do. That's when we know, like, hey, check in with your mentor. Come call me. Come check in with me. I'll help you get it back in order. I promise you that, because none of you are losers. None of you are worthless. None of you have all of you have value. Every last one of you. And I don't just say that because I'm the dad in the room. No, I say that because it's true. It is really true. You whether you got into UT or not, you still got value. And I say that as a person that did not get into UT, right? So don't overthink. Now, you're gonna do it. Let me just be clear. There are gonna be moments where you're like, man, you put so much thought into it, you lose a lot of time overthinking. And so as a result, think until it stops becoming productive. And all of us have different measures of how that productiveness is. So I'm a minute over. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you.
So joining us today from the Center for Leadership and Ethics and the McCombs School of Business, we have Robert Prentice.
Hi, gang. Can you all hear me? All right, good deal. Boy, so I only have to think back 54 years to when I was a freshman at the University of Kansas, Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Okay, I'm not a native Longhorn, but I got here as fast as I could. I've been here 43 years now, and so I'm pretty dyed in the wool with the burnt orange. I think you're gonna love it here. I love it here. That's why I've stayed for 43 years and married a woman who's lived in Austin her whole life. So this is good. I need to remember to do one thing. This is a Diet Coke. Yummy, yummy. I've got to do that to get my NIL money. So Bijan Robinson and I, we got it covered. We get the NIL money there. So I was asked to talk to you about defining ethics, which I'm very happy to do because I'm at the Center for Leadership and Ethics, and you're going to learn leadership, so this has got to all be good. I have to say, I'm more on the ethics side of the Center for Leadership and Ethics than the leadership side. So I figured, well, if I've got to define leadership, being the smart person I am, I went straight to the dictionary, which defines leadership as the action of leading a group of people or an organization. That sounds roughly right to me. It's a little tautological, I have to admit, but hard to argue with that as a definition. I also looked at writings by people who are considered experts in leadership and got this one: The Art of Motivating a Group of People to Act Toward Achieving a Common Goal, and this one, The Ability to Inspire a Team to Achieve a Certain Goal. Those two sound like pretty much the same thing to me. I think we got all three of those down. We're pretty much set in terms of defining leadership. I want to make a couple comments, though. One, you can lead from the front, but you can also lead from the middle or even from the back. It's great to be the leader, the president, the chairman, the governor, whatever it happens to be. But whether you're in a club, an organization, a corporation, government agency, whatever it happens to be, just by being responsible, being accountable, being there on time, doing your job, not complaining, encouraging those around you, helping those around you who need help. Those are all forms of leadership, and you don't have to have a title by your name to do those things. If you want to be a leader, remember, you're not leading just for yourself, you're leading for others. If your idea of leadership is, well, I need to get this name, this position on my resume so some company will want to interview me and I can get a good job, that's not a good reason to be a leader. You want to be a leader to help your club, your organization, your corporation, your church, whatever you happen to be a leader in. If you're doing it just for you, you're not really doing anything worthwhile. And most important to me is that leadership without values is not leadership at all. Many people believe Adolf Hitler was a great leader. He was certainly able to, go back to our definitions, inspire a team to achieve a certain goal. But because his values were all, from beginning to end, horrible values, those goals were all horrible as well. And so, to be a real leader, you've got to have the right kind of values. Elizabeth Holmes was a good leader. As a dropout from Stanford University, she started a corporation, Theranos, and built it into hundreds of employees, $800 million of investment. But her values weren't very good either. Her values were fake it until you make it, and she was never able to make the product that she was promising that she would make. And she wasted about $1 billion of other people's money before she was convicted of fraud and toddled off to jail. So this gets me to what I want to talk about, which is values. Because I teach ethics and morality and values, and to me, those are important. They're critical, in fact, indispensable to being a good leader. So let me ask real quick. Let me ask first, will you help me out just by writing down what I tell you to write down? Bless you. Is your handwriting as bad as mine? Okay, good. You've seen mine. It's horrible. Let me ask you what moral characteristics you think are valuable to cultivate. You have just wandered off to college. You have left home. You've got 4 years to become the kind of person that you want to become. And this is something I hope you'll all think very carefully about. Let me take a little detour here, just because something's on my mind. I heard recently about a conversation between the president of a particular university and a big donor. And the big donor said, to the president. You just teach my kids some stuff. You don't mess with how they think about the world. I taught them how to think about the world, about religion, about politics, about that sort of thing. You leave, don't philosophy? No, you leave that. I did that. You leave them the way I formed them. And that's one way to look at things. But from my way of looking at things, this is 4 years for you to decide what you think. I believe you'll be much happier as an adult, much more satisfied as an adult, a much more effective person, a much more effective leader, if you spend these 4 years thinking about what really counts to you, what's important in all of these various categories, and leave here knowing that you have your own opinions that you have thought carefully about and you have formed. And you're not just spouting what your parents told you, or what your teachers told you, or what your university professors told you, or even what your friends told you. You should listen to all of those people. You should listen to everybody. But at the end of the day, you should be working really hard to think carefully about what you truly believe, what you truly think is important. And if you walk out of here 4 years from now with the values that seem right to you, you'll be way ahead of the game, I think. So, having gotten up on my soapbox and said that, let me go back to my question. What moral characteristics do you think are important to cultivate? Anyone? Yes. And you have to speak up because I'm old and I can't hear well.
So the moral characteristic I'd like to cultivate the most is integrity.
Integrity, dynamite. Why?
The highest extent, because with a lot of people who are visionaries, like you were saying with Adolf Hitler, his values were all wrong. And so I think that it's of utmost importance for me to, when I use my drive in this world, I want to make a positive impact, and I want to make it so I have the highest level of integrity. So when I'm handed opportunities that are my literal dream, like everything I've worked towards, but doing so will mean that I give up my integrity or I hurt someone in any sort of way, that I don't take that dream and instead I do it the right way, my way, and then prove that it can be done with integrity.
Boom. I'm going to stop you there, but integrity is great. That's number one, should be really, really important to everybody here. Yes?
I say being considerate, like just being mindful of others.
Boom. I like it. Mindful of others or considerate. I think that is exactly right. Isn't that the kind of person you want to be, the kind of person you want to be around, the kind of person you want to have for a leader? Yes.
Empathy, the ability to understand various perspectives so that you can work with everyone and achieve a bigger goal than you would otherwise.
Dynamite. Empathy, very important. And I should ask what your name is.
Christopher.
Christopher, thank you very much. Got one back there, yes.
Compassion.
Compassion.
That your goals are able to, so that your goals are in line with the goals of the people that you're leading.
Excellent. Align your goals with people leading, have compassion for their feelings. I think that goes very well, complements empathy very nicely. Got somebody in the back there?
Honesty. I feel like we lack honesty, which is why a lot of things kind of like fall under us.
Excellent. Wouldn't all of us want honesty on a top 10 list of characteristics that we want to have for the people who are going to be our leaders and our co-workers and our friends? Got one over here. Hold on, got a microphone coming.
Accountability.
Accountability, excellent. I mentioned just a little bit, a really good way to lead from the middle or lead from behind or lead from the front is to be accountable. Hold other people accountable, of course, but hold yourself accountable as well. I don't know about you, but the people who I work with in my department, who I admire the most, are the people who are accountable for the things that they are supposed to do get done. They get done on time. They get done well. That's accountability. Got a comment right here. Oh, I got it.
Consistency.
Consistency, exactly. It's just wonderful to be a star today, but then you get a little tired and you want to go to the beach and you forget to go to a meeting or take care of responsibilities and people can't count on you tomorrow. Consistency, very, very important. Okay, these are all good. Yes?
Altruism.
Altruism is good. Again, if you're a leader only for yourself and the only thing that counts to you is getting a line on your resume so you can get a big interview, that's not as good as being there to help your club, help your organization, help other people out.
To respect your values.
To respect others' values, I think that's a good one too. Yeah, I'm going to say respect.
Humility. Humility.
Humility, absolutely. Almost nobody likes somebody who's just too full of themselves. Everything's about them all the time.
Loyalty.
Loyalty. Don't we all? Well, I'm hoping you'll all be loyal to the University of Texas. The 4 years you're here and for a long time thereafter, my closet is filled with burnt orange stuff that I look really bad in, but it's UT colors, so I wear it. I'm loyal to UT.
Persistence.
Persistence, exactly. Everybody's going to run into problems, going to run into obstacles. If you can persist, you can get through. You can accomplish the things that need to be accomplished.
Trustworthiness.
Trustworthiness, excellent. I think that goes with some of the things we talked about earlier, but that's definitely a good one on the list.
Patience.
Patience is good. That's one I'm not very good at. I need to work on that one a little bit. Okay, we could go on here for a long time, but these are all excellent. Every single one of these that you mentioned, I think is a characteristic that I hope we'll all work on for our 4 years here. Christopher, thank you very much. Boy, you've got good handwriting. Integrity, consideration, empathy, honesty, accountability, consistency, respect, patience, and I know there are more hands out there, and I apologize that I'm going to jump ahead, but I've got a few more things that I want to accomplish here. Just say, 2 recent lists I ran across, we overlap with a fair number of these, but here's some more that I think we wouldn't disagree with. We wouldn't disagree with fairness or humanity or justice or temperance or courage or wisdom. Those are all good characteristics as well, so golly, we got a lot to work on. But to the extent we can work on these and make ourselves better people, we'll be better leaders and better human beings. So, quick quiz. I want you to think about the bad things that people do. I've got a list of examples there: adultery and fraud and tax evasion and shoplifting and insider trading, sawing the boot off your car, that sort of thing. So, keeping those things in mind, little true-false question here. I have solid, well-considered ethical beliefs that can be changed only by reasoned arguments or new evidence. Think about you real quick and ask me or tell me if you think that's true for you, that regarding the bad things that people sometimes do and how we have to judge them, you have solid, well-considered ethical beliefs that can be changed only by reasoned arguments or new evidence. How many of you would say, and no abstentions here, how many would you say, yes, that sounds like me? How many of you would say, no, that's probably not me after all? I've got a couple hands. All right, good. And then one more. I have character and integrity that will carry me through difficult situations and hard choices. When you come up to the opportunity to insider trade, to engage in adultery, to commit fraud, etc., do you have character and integrity that will carry you through difficult situations and hard choices? How many of you say, yep, that's me? How many of you say, no, that's not me? Okay, keep an eye on that guy in the back, third one over. So thanks. Well, you'd think, now that we've got a big list of values that we all know are important, we want to work on, and we have now basically pronounced ourselves good people because we run into an ethical challenge, we're going to take care of it. You'd think we kind of have this wired. You'd think, oh my goodness, we are going to be great leaders because we know what values we need to work on, and we've got character and integrity. They're going to carry us through any ethical challenges we'll face. But my area of interest in research and writing is behavioral ethics. It's the science of ethical decision-making. Got a lot of psychology in it, but a lot of other fields as well, neuroscience, cognitive psychology, etc. And it teaches us that people who want to be good people, and mostly are good people, sometimes still can screw up, and can screw up in big ways. I'm part of a project at the Macomb School called Ethics Unwrapped. We do ethics videos. I'm going to play 3 of them for you today. And here's the first one. Come on, baby. Oh, there it is.
You know the 5 physical senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. But did you know we also have a moral sense? It's what helps guide our moral judgments and actions. You know that pit that opens up in your stomach when you're about to do something wrong? That's your moral sense kicking in. But beware, the brain can be fooled. Ever seen an optical illusion? Take a look at this. What do you see? Not everything is as it seems. Even sound can trick your brain. Watch this.
Ba, ba, ba,
What do you hear?
ba, ba, ba,
What about now?
ba, 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 ba.
The only sound that ever bounced off your eardrums was ba, ba, ba. But the brain prioritizes what we see over what we hear. So you probably heard fa, fa, fa the second time.
Ba, ba, ba,
This illusion is known as the McGurk effect.
ba.
Pretty wild, huh? Just as our brain can be tricked by
I love the McGurk effect. So the only sound that ever came out of the speakers was ba, ba, ba. That's the only sound that ever bounced off your eardrums. But we rigged the tape so that part of the time the guy is mouthing fa, 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 as if he's saying fa, fa, fa. So your brain is getting conflicting signals. Ba, 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 bouncing off the eardrum. Fa, fa, fa is what the eye sees. You would think that since it makes a sound, the ear would override the eye, but it doesn't. The brain prioritizes the visual. And so even though ba, ba, ba is bouncing off your eardrums, you will hear inside your head fa, 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 if that's what the person is mouthing. That's the McGurk effect, and to me, that's pretty crazy.
optical and auditory illusions, our moral sense can also be fooled. For example, because our brain has evolved to help us survive, we tend to process information in ways that serve our self-interest. Often, what is best for us seems to us to be what is best. But this is a moral illusion. It's called the self-serving bias. There are many ways moral illusions can lead even the most well-meaning people astray. All the psychological biases, mental shortcuts, social pressures, and other factors such as time pressure and stress that are described by behavioral ethics research create moral illusions. Learning about behavioral ethics can help you uncover these illusions, and it can also help you learn how to guard against them.
So the point is, we know there are optical illusions. We know there are auditory illusions. People who study this know there are also moral illusions. Situations where something looks to us to be the right thing, but actually isn't, because of a whole number of forces. One are social and organizational pressures. One is obedience to authority. We are all wired to be obedient to authority. From the time we are little kids, we are rewarded for pleasing people in a position of authority. Our parents, our teachers, our religious leaders, policemen down the block. And what that means is what they tell us to do can seem to be the right thing to do, even though it's not. And because we want to please people in a position of authority, we may do what they ask us to do, even though in our gut, it just doesn't feel right. And there's the conformity bias. We tend to take our cues as to how to act, how to dress, what music to listen to, really everything in our social lives from the people around us. And what that means is what they're doing may seem right when, again, our gut kind of knows it's not. You're out on the interstate, everybody's speeding, you know you're more likely to speed. You're downtown looking for a parking place, people are double parking, shouldn't double park, but you know you're more likely to do it if everybody else is doing it. That's the conformity bias. And those can lead you to make bad moral choices. There are also cognitive biases, the overconfidence bias. We're going to talk about a whole lot here in just a minute, but, well, I'll just give you a couple statistics. One, on average, more than 80% of people think they are above average in morality compared to people around them. Well, only 50% can be, but 80% claim that they are. And 92% of Americans in a recent survey said they thought they were satisfied with their moral character. Well, that can lead people to be overconfident and get them in trouble. There's also the in-group, out-group bias. You may not realize this, but when you're judging the actions of somebody you view as being in your in-group and compare it to somebody you view as being in your out-group, different parts of your brain are judging those actions. So I might read in the newspaper that some Aggie football player has been arrested over in College Station for doing something, and I think to myself, oh my God, what kind of animals are they recruiting over there at A&M? I can't believe those people. But a month later, I read a headline in the Austin American-Statesman saying that a UT football player has been arrested down on 6th Street for doing exactly the same thing, and my mind tells me, boys will be boys. Boys will be boys. That's the in-group, out-group bias. There are many other examples, but these are just a couple. And there's also just various situational factors. Time pressure is a big one. You get down to the end of the semester, all your projects are due, your presentations are due, you're studying hard for exams. You're more likely to give yourself permission to cheat under that time pressure than you normally would do, so you've got to absolutely guard against that. So, there's something called the fundamental attribution error. And the idea here is that if you see on the internet a video of some like CEO being arrested, doing the perp walk, you're likely to say to yourself, oh, he did a bad thing. He must be a bad person. But then you say to yourself, I am a good person. I would not do that bad thing. And you kind of feel like that's not relevant to you. But it kind of is. Eugene Soltis at the Harvard Business School wondered how it was that people who've been very successful in their lives had become CEOs, CFOs, COOs of major corporations. How do those types of people end up in jail? He thought, I'm going to go ask them. Ixian Su is a professor of accounting at UNLV. She had the same idea, and with some accounting colleagues, they went to prisons and interviewed CEOs, COOs, CFOs who were in jail for financial frauds. When they interview these people about, okay, why are you in jail? Nobody said, well, you know, I got up one morning and said, today's the day I start my life of crime. And nobody said, you know, I think I took the wrong philosophy classes in college. I think I should have read more Kant. Nobody said, I think my parents raised me in the wrong religion. People in my religion just can't figure out what's right and wrong. Nobody said any of that. The reasons they gave for why they're sitting in jail are the reasons that I'm going to be talking about with you here today. And I'm going to be talking about just a few of them because that's all I've got time for, but it's things like the overconfidence bias, obedience to authority, the conformity bias, etc. It's not that people wanted to do the wrong thing. In retrospect, looking back at what they did, it's clear to them they screwed up. But at the time, they were probably focusing on pleasing the boss, getting along with everybody else, or they were just so overconfident they weren't careful in the decisions that they made. Studies show that leaders are not only vulnerable to these influences, they're, in many situations, more vulnerable than the average person. So at Ethics Unwrapped, we did a couple videos, 2 videos on leadership and ethics, and I'm going to play them for you. I'm going to start with the first one, and I hope you'll pay close attention, and I'm going to ask for some comments and any questions that anybody has when we get done with this one. Starring UT students.
What does it mean to be an effective ethical leader? It means at least 2 things. First, effective ethical leaders act ethically as an inspiration to others. No single factor has a bigger impact on the ethicality of firm culture than the personal examples set by firm leaders. Second, they communicate and manage their organization's culture so as to promote ethical action by subordinates.
Most of my managers have always been very ethical, and I've always looked up to their leadership, but one in particular stood out from the others in that she was always looking for other people's perspectives. How is this going to impact other people? What are the downstream impacts of this decision that we're going to make? And is it truly the right one for our company, for our stakeholders, and our client teams?
Professors Cropenzano and Wallumbwa have observed that most adults do not have an adequate moral compass, and therefore look outside themselves for guidance in moral dilemma situations. It is the leaders of their organizations to whom they primarily look. And studies show that few things impact the ethical climate of a firm more than the actions of their leaders. Importantly, leaders' unethical actions are copied by subordinates even more readily than their ethical actions.
When you have an unethical boss that is always trying to bend the rules or even break them, that is creating a toxic environment for everybody in the institution. Because more and more people will try to do the same thing.
Although it is especially important for leaders to act ethically, they are often particularly vulnerable to acting unethically. Professors Ten Brunsell and Bazerman note that it is clear that most people have high opinions of their own character and do not realize the substantial gap between how ethical they think they are and how ethical they truly are.
Like, for example, I worked for a doctor in a small practice, and he had a very colorful personality, but he was also very unethical about a lot of things because it was just him, and he was the boss. And sometimes he would disclose really personal information about patients to other patients and to us. They think that they are overconfident that they're ethical, and really they're not, or what they're doing is not wrong. They rationalize themselves out of it anyways because, you know, for the doctor I worked for, he was a doctor, and so he did lots of good things. So it's okay that he did these things. Or, you know, he was more educated than all of us, so he knew what he was talking about, and none of us knew.
Believing that we are moral people and will automatically do moral things, many of us act with little self-reflection and thereby often make ethical mistakes. Overconfidence renders leaders particularly vulnerable because they have typically had great success in their lives. Think of Ken Lay, former CEO of Enron, minister's son, noted philanthropist, convicted felon. Or think of disgraced lobbyist Jack Abramoff, devout Jew, devoted family man, convicted felon. Another behavioral factor that particularly affects leaders is the instant entitlement bias. Studies show that if people are told that they are part of a team and that they should divide up resources allocated to the team, they tend to divide the resources equally among team members. But if they are told that they have been selected as the leader of the team, they tend to keep a much larger share of the resources for themselves.
Yay!
In real life, leaders often fall victim to the instant entitlement bias, as can be seen in the lavish lifestyles often lived by corporate bigwigs. Think of former Tyco CEO Dennis Kozlowski, who spent $2 million of company money on his wife's birthday party.
It's really easy to serve in one's self-interest when you're in a position of power.
If your decisions have always been supported and you've always been praised for being a fantastic leader and increasing the value of the firm, it could feel like you can do no wrong in the eyes of the firm. It could be hard for you to slow down and think about whether you could have made a better decision or whether the decisions you are making are truly ethical and in the best interest of the firm and your own value structure, you know, the culture of the company and your own personal values.
A study by Professors Flynn and Wiltermuth demonstrated that people at the center of social networks, such as CEOs, are more likely than others to mistakenly believe that other people agree with them regarding what is an ethical course of action. It is often shocking how top corporate officers, like WorldCom's Bernie Ebbers, and high government officials, like New York's Eliot Spitzer, come to the view that the rules that apply to everyone else do not apply to them. For example, when Ken Lay was found to have violated Enron's code of ethics by investing in a company that did more than 80% of its business with Enron, he called suggestions of impropriety form over substance. Rules, he said, are important, but you should not be a slave to rules either.
I had a boss that would always try to embezzle money and also try to force a number of young people, young volunteers in the institution to make loans with fake papers and to take the money, and he presented everything as being done for the greater good for the organization. The higher people go up the chain, the more likely they are to do illegal stuff because they think nobody's going to catch them.
Professor Dr. Keltner of the University of California at Berkeley, who studies ethical leadership, further finds that leaders are often tone deaf on ethical issues, and that they have uniquely self-serving rationalizations for their unethical actions that often focus on their rights and crowd out any consideration of others' rights. As Professor Zach notes, achieving high social status appears to make it not just lonely at the top, but morally perilous as well.
And people talk about power corrupting. It doesn't have to. Only if you are not aware that your actions have consequences and networks around you, right?
That you can't put a price on doing the right thing.
Realize what's important, what's moral, and question your actions to make sure that all the decisions you're making are leading to an objective that is ethical.
I think if a leader sets a tone that they've never made a mistake, they don't struggle with anything, they're perfect, then, I mean, that's not realistic. But then how can people come to them when they're feeling less than perfect?
The best leaders are the ones who acknowledge their own shortcomings, acknowledge that they do not know everything, and ask those who they serve and ask those who work for them just to fill them in on what's happening. The best companies are the ones that create a culture where the employees can voice their concerns to their bosses, really.
So just a few takeaways. 1, leaders must walk the walk to inspire others. 2, no other factor has as big an impact on a firm's ethical culture than the leader's personal examples. You guys are going to be leaders in organizations. What you do is going to count for you, but it's also going to count for everybody in the group. Most adults, especially college age, don't have an adequate moral compass yet, so they look to leaders naturally as they would. And leaders have particular vulnerabilities, especially to the overconfidence bias. All of you have had great success in high school. Otherwise, you wouldn't be at the University of Texas. But remember that even though you've led exemplary lives, I'm certain, and you've all said you've got the moral courage to stand up to any challenges you might face, I bet if I asked, be honest, have you ever screwed up? Ever done something you really shouldn't have done? I know my hand would have gone up, your hand wouldn't have gone up, and everybody else's hand would have gone up. So got to worry about that just a little bit. Let me take some questions or comments that you might have about this video. Anybody? Yes.
What are some exercises that leaders can practice or questions that they ask themselves to reflect on whether they're being ethical and how they can improve?
I think the most important thing is to keep your eyes open and realize that anytime you're making an important decision, that important decision is going to have ethical implications. We act unethically when we make poor decisions that unfairly injure other people, other institutions, our environment. And so you've always got to keep your eyes open and not just assume, oh, my parents raised me the right way. I like my church. I've taken great philosophy classes at the University of Texas. I run into an ethical challenge. I just know I'm going to get it right. That's when you're not thoughtful, not careful, and you can mess up. Always a good idea with an important decision to consult with third parties. Could be a mentor, could be a religious leader, could be one of your old professors that you go back to. But anytime it's an important decision, you've got to try to keep ethics in your frame of reference and be very careful and deliberate about it. What else? Yes?
So I know we have to improve on our ethics and our values, but do we have to try to be perfect?
Yes. Knowing that you'll fail. Nobody's going to be perfect. Nobody's going to get out of this life without having made mistakes. The most important thing in ethics is when you make a mistake, try to learn from it, and always be trying to be perfect
even though we all realize we can't be, and we've got to give ourselves a break from time to time when we screw up. But try to always get it right and always learn from mistakes you make.
So would it be wrong to say that greed basically drives like us breaking our morals?
That greed?
Basically makes us want to break or like...
Yeah. Greed is one of those negative emotions. And on the one hand, greed can drive accomplishment. It can drive us to work. I mean, we all want things in life, right? We want respect. We want success. We want admiration. We want money. We want lots of stuff. And greed is a little part of what motivates us to do those things, but I think greed implies an excessive motivation for accomplishment and acquisition, perhaps at the expense of other values that are equally or perhaps even more important. I think being honest is more important than achievement, because you didn't really achieve anything if you achieved it by cheating. So, what else? Yes.
So what makes something a morally good or morally bad action? And more importantly, where does morality come from?
I'm going to let you work that out in your philosophy classes. The point I think that I want to make is that you're going to get that from thinking the deep thoughts, consulting your religious leaders, thinking about philosophy. The point that the part of the whole ethical conundrum that I am focusing on here is the fact that think about those people in jail, the CEOs, the CFOs, the COOs, who talked about why they screwed up. None of them said, oh gosh, I didn't know insider trading was wrong. Nobody says, oh golly, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to commit adultery. Nobody says, who told me fraud was wrong? I didn't know fraud was wrong. We all know those things, so I'm focusing on that part of where we mess up doing things we know were wrong. Again, if I were to ask you, is there something you did in high school that you look back on and morally speaking, you think you kind of screwed up? I bet everybody would have a story to tell. And I bet very few of you would say, gosh, I didn't know that was wrong at the time. There'd be some of you that was the case. But for most of you, you knew it was wrong, but you did it anyway. Perhaps out of loyalty to a friend. Perhaps because you were afraid of the consequences if you got caught having done that bad thing or whatever it happens to be. That's the part of things that I'm focusing on here. Let me take one more comment and then I've got another video I want to show you.
You said that you worked in multiple places for a long time. Have you ever personally dealt with an unethical leader, perhaps?
I'm going to say no on that one. The key thing for me is I grew up on a farm. My dad died when I was 17. I took over the farm. So I farmed for 7 years. Then I worked for a federal judge for 5 years, who was the most honest guy I've known. And then I've worked here for 42 years. So I've only had 3 jobs in my life, and I've had the good fortune not to work for anybody who was a scumbag. But we talked about obedience to authority and how we're all wired to be obedient to authority. The first, real job I had out of law school was working for this federal judge. And he was a wonderful person, one of the best people I've ever known in my life. And I just kind of automatically did everything he asked me to do without ever even thinking about, is this the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do? And I worried deeply that, because I was 25 years old when I started working for him, and really, having grown up on a farm, unsophisticated, I worried that if he'd asked me to do something wrong, I might have done it, just because I admired him so much and I wanted so much to please him. I'm lucky he was a stand-up guy. Because if he hadn't been, I could have gotten myself in real trouble without thinking about it. When somebody in a position of authority tells you to do something and your stomach goes, ooh, man, I don't know, get some advice. Get some help from somebody else before you just automatically do it. Okay, here is my other video. And again, I appreciate your questions, and we'll want some more when we're done here.
Ethical leaders both act ethically as an inspiration to others and communicate and manage their organization's culture so as to promote ethical action. So, how does a leader effectively communicate and manage an organization's culture to create ethical action?
I think effective leaders lead by example, and that's sort of setting the tone.
The most important attribute of being an effective leader is cultivating a self-awareness.
Respect for other people.
They know they are responsible for a group of people.
Well, leaders must establish their organization's ethical norms. They must ask, what does our organization stand for? They should set high expectations. Leaders must also effectively communicate to others both the contents of those ethical norms and the intensity of the organization's commitment to upholding them. The careful drafting, with input from others in their organization, of a code of ethics can be helpful. Then, leaders must implement employment practices consistent with these overall goals. Of course, they must hire good people and punish those who violate the organization's ethical norms. Just as importantly, they must reward those whose conduct embodies the organization's ethical standards.
You can all agree that you have these core values in your company and maybe put some posters on the wall, but if you never have to talk about it and figure out how it relates to your actual day-to-day work, then it's all fluff.
It turns out that leaders can use psychological knowledge to nudge employees to act more ethically. So, leaders should keep in mind people are more likely to steal from their firms or mistreat their firm's customers if they feel as though they themselves have been mistreated.
As the leader, it is your responsibility to put others ahead of you sometimes. You want them to be very happy and to feel very good about the work that they're doing on a constant basis.
Leaders must explain the reasons for taking the actions that they take, for that helps employees accept decisions even if they disagree with them. Also, studies show that employees are more likely to act unethically if they are exhausted. So to overwork employees is to court disaster. Relatedly, people tend to act less ethically if they are under acute time pressure. So this is another reason to be reasonable in placing demands upon employees. Professors Margolis and Malinsky studied several organizations and found that some wisely built into their processes time for pauses and second looks.
So in hyper-competitive environments, there's incentives to be number one or incentives to be at the top of your class or at the top of sales or whatever the case may be. And because of those incentives, people will do whatever they need to do.
Remember, employees naturally focus upon goals that are set for them by superiors. If unrealistic goals are set, especially those that carry punishments for failing to meet them, or extravagant rewards for exceeding them, then employees will tend to lose focus on the ethical aspects of their actions. They will concentrate entirely on meeting the goal. Realistic goals and moderate rewards for meeting them are a good combination.
Really having a set follow-up schedule in terms of making sure that everyone's on the same page from an ethical perspective is hugely important.
You may not have considered this, but the evidence is clear that people are more likely to act unethically if they find themselves in a dirty or cluttered workplace, or if they find themselves in a dimly lit space. Cleanliness and good lighting can go a long way toward fostering ethical behavior.
I was in a company that was, very ethically sound. It was definitely an open space. It was an office without cubicles. We were in a big building and there were hundreds of employees with no cubicles, and so that just encouraged more conversations and more interaction.
Finally, studies show that employees will tend to act more ethically if they are frequently reminded of the importance to the firm of living up to its espoused values. Effective leaders create legends that illustrate commitment to the firm's culture. For decades, accounting firm Arthur Andersen was the most admired accounting firm in the world, in part because of its employees' belief in the origin story of how founder Arthur Andersen told a large client that there was not enough money in Chicago to induce him to fudge the numbers. Unfortunately, the leaders of Andersen forgot this lesson and started emphasizing revenue over character, which is why the firm no longer exists.
If we are in a position of power, if we are in a position of leadership, it's simply not enough to just have the title of leadership. We have to assume that challenge, right?
You know, it's easy to say what you're doing, but you actually need to you know, talk the talk and walk the walk.
While there is no single correct way to create and foster an ethical organizational culture, committed leaders will benefit by keeping these points in mind and by remembering that all their actions send messages.
Lead by example. You have to show them what you want done and how you want it done based on your own actions. That way, even in the cases where you're not around, they can say, okay, what would so-and-so do?
If you really want to build a company where people are going to rally behind a shared set of values, you have to make people talk about it and relate it to their day-to-day work.
The organizational culture that supports gut feeling, that supports thinking before action, can significantly raise the possibility of more ethical and moral decisions.
So a few takeaways here. The first video kind of focused on leaders walking the walk. You've got to be a good person yourself. That's the most important thing that you can do. But then you also need to suffuse this throughout your corporation or your other organization, your club. You got to talk the talk to inculcate ethical norms. If you're in most clubs or corporations, adopt a code of ethics and use it. Treat your employees or your club members well. Set realistic goals and moderate rewards. And most important, communicate. I've talked to student leaders here on campus who have gotten into organizations and found out that there was hazing going on. And it became their #1 goal to rid the organization of that sort of activity. I've had student leaders come in and tell me that they walked into an organization where the few people at the top who controlled the money for the organization took advantage of the fact that they controlled the money. And their #1 job became changing that culture. So again, whether you're in a corporation out in the real world or in a club here on campus or some other organization here on campus, you need to act well yourself, but also it's your responsibility to do your best to make sure that your members, your employees are also doing the right thing. So, love to have some comments and questions about the second video here. Anyone? Help me out here, come on. Great. She's asking, so how do you get the message through to a corporation or an organization? And is practicing a good way to do it, to address ethical issues that you might run into? And I think the answer to that is absolutely yes. The best way to do it is to always keep things top of mind. Always have ethics in your frame of reference so that you're thinking about it, members are thinking about it, and then it's good to struggle with difficult questions that you'll run into. Because again, most of the mistakes you're going to make in your life, ethically speaking, are going to be things that, in retrospect, you look back and say, that was clearly wrong. Jesus, I can't believe I did that. But there are going to be times when there will be real ethical struggles. The loyalty you hold to an organization is in conflict with the loyalty you hold to a friend, and you've got to figure out how to handle that. And so it's good to talk about that with your friends, talk about that with people in your organization, but always, always, always be thinking about these things. Because there's no easier way in the world to screw up than making a moral mistake. What else? Yes?
In an organization, what do you do in ethical scenarios in which things are not black and white and they're nuanced and there are many people on both sides of certain conclusions?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Again, that's not going to happen that often, but it will happen sometimes. And when it does, all you can do, I think, is be sure you listen as open-mindedly as possible to both points of view. Try to think a little bit about the bias that you might have. The first video talked about the self-serving bias, the fact that we have a tendency to gather information, process information, even remember information in a self-serving way.
that supports what's best for us, supports the positions we already hold. And we've got to remember that and guard against the self-serving bias leading us to just do what's good for us and not what's good for other people. And that generally means getting as many viewpoints as possible. And if people inside your organization are pretty much split down the middle and can't decide, get some advice from people outside the organization and see if that can help out. What else? Yes, way over there in the back.
What happens when you're trying to be an ethical leader, but you get to a trolley problem?
Oh, the old trolley problem. Well, the thing about the trolley problem is, and I'm sure you all have heard about the trolley problem, you probably watched The Good Place. It's a very interesting episode they had on the trolley problem. The idea of the trolley problem is that you have got this trolley, and it's going down the track, and the conductor has passed out. And in one iteration, it's on the track, and it's heading toward 5 workers who are on the track, and it's going to kill those 5 workers if nothing is done. But somebody standing a ways away is near a switch and can flip the switch. But if they flip the switch, the trolley goes from the track that would kill 5 people to a different track, but there's one guy on that track, and that one guy would be killed. And so the question that gets raised is it morally permissible to flip the switch where you're kind of actively killing one guy, but you're saving 5? And philosophers have been arguing about this for a long, long, long time, and there's no real clear answer to what's the right thing to do. Morally, I think the right thing to do is to flip the switch. Whether or not I could get the courage to do it myself in a particular situation, I'm not sure. But the utilitarian view would say, yeah, you could save 5 lives instead of just 1 life. That's the way you should do it. But a deontological Kantian-based approach might say, oh no, you're using that one person in a wrongful way, and that'd be bad. Again, I think my point here would be there's not a real clear answer to that one way or the other. But what you want to make sure is that you're doing what you think is right, having thought about it carefully, and not just, oh, this is what everybody else says, so it must be okay. This is what my boss says, so it must be okay. Oh, that'd be best for me. That really sounds like it's going to be okay. You don't want to do that. Yes.
So this is in the same topic, I would say, but whenever you're in a situation where you're a leader and the people you're leading want a certain outcome or want you to do a certain thing, but you believe that that action is too extreme or immoral, to what extent, no matter what, you're either going to take the action that you think is immoral in order to be a good leader and please like the people you're leading, versus you don't act and you're not serving others. And so in that case,
I think the argument I'm going to make here is you're not necessarily being a good leader giving people what they want if what they want is the wrong thing, if what they want is immoral. And now I'm going to say, they're not paying me enough to make you guys late for lunch. So thanks for your time. I appreciate it very much. I'm happy to hang around here for a long time and answer any questions anybody has. I'm happy to debate the trolley problem with anybody, but I don't want to make you late for lunch. Thanks for your time, everybody.